This is a video called The Boarding House Blues. For about 24 years, I lived in Burwood in a boarding house. For 14 of those years, I lived in number 9. And for about 10 years, I lived in a flat downstairs. I want to share with you some of my experiences of that time. I suffered from a mental illness from 1992. I was diagnosed in York, in Bootham Park, a mental health hospital, after returning from Africa as a missionary. I spent 14 years of my life in the boarding house, just surviving and just existing. Sleeping a lot and eating when I could. And I was taken out for dinner once a week by Paul and Liz, friends of mine I've known now about 35, 40 years. They loved me unconditionally. They never asked me to do anything or to be anything that I couldn't be. They loved me as much as they could, and they helped me as much as they could. But basically my days were spent sleeping and just lying down on the bed and full of medication and having some rather bizarre thoughts and extreme ideas. But all through it, the Lord Jesus was present, and He was the abiding presence in my life. He stayed with me throughout the whole of the 14 years and beyond. And He is with me even now and in and through me even now. I found existing day to day pretty hard. It was difficult. Life wasn't easy, and life becomes rather predictable and almost meaningless and senseless when you're just trying to survive day in, day out. You eat when you can and sleeping all the time. The medication was so heavy it just made me sleep all the time. So I almost felt like I was asleep 24/7. I didn't have much to do with people. I'd walk the streets sometimes, but I grew a beard for about 12 years. It's a long beard. All I needed was a Harley Davidson, a motorcycle, and I would have been a great bikie in those days. I look back on those days with fondness in some ways, because I was really aware of the presence of the Lord Jesus Christ caring for me and being there for me and looking after me and providing for me, and even holding my hand and just being the abiding presence that I needed in my life. The owner of the boarding house, Nunzio, was very kind to me. He was an Italian landlord. He was one of a kind. He'd worked for British Paints before that. He owned the boarding house. He used to come and collect the rent and knock on the door. Sometimes I'd be terrified of him coming into my room. If it was dirty, I'd be worried about it. But he was kind, and I got to know him over a number of years, and I found him to be pleasant, respectful, and helpful. And he cared for the residents of his boarding house, and he went out of his way to look after them. He died 24 years later. And I'm not sure what happened to the boarding house. But I do know that to survive day in, day out, 24/7 sleeping is pretty hard, and it's pretty difficult, and it's extreme. But in some ways, that's what is the life of people who've been diagnosed with mental illness. There is such a stigma associated with mental illness in the society and in the world at large. People are so afraid, it's almost like they feel like they could catch it if they're near somebody who has a mental illness. The reality is they can't catch it, and it's just sad to see the way they distance themselves from people who have a mental illness. In the last couple of years and whatever life I have, I want to be an advocate for mental illness, for those who have mental illness. I want to show that we can contribute to society, we can make a difference, we can be restored, we can be restored to full health and become real citizens and honest citizens of society and contribute and bring worth and value to the society out of our lives. Thank you.